Let's get some of the matchup to watch in this one with NFL Insider KC Joyner, the footballscientist.com. He joins us now on the Sports Bash. Welcome back, Casey. How are you, pal?
Hey, good to be here.
Well, Eagles-Giants part 2 here. Now, the Eagles are starting to get a little healthier here. You're going to get Lane Johnson back. We're hoping to see Isaac Seumalo back out there at left guard. So this might be the best offensive line they've had all season long. So I'm interested to see this Eagles line up against the Giant front. That last time, it feels like the Giants' defense that they're getting better, is I guess what you're looking at. They don't have like this standout player, but they feel like they're getting better.
They do gap control very well. They're very disciplined defense. You'd expect that from a Joe Judge team. I think it stands out for them in the running game is they've allowed 77 or fewer rushing yards to running backs in 6 of the last 7 games. And they played the 49ers, they played the Rams, they played Washington a couple of times, they played the Eagles, they played the Bucs. I mean, these are not pushover teams in the run game. These are solid teams, and yet they're not allowing very big gains. And again, it's because more that they're disciplined than they are anything else. They're just where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there when you're running at them.
You look at the other side, the Eagles' defensive front. We know that's supposed to be their strong suit. The last couple of years, the Giants' offensive line has been a huge problem. Where do you see that matchup? Because the Eagles coming off of a bye, I think the Eagles should hope to dominate that matchup.
You would think that they would, and here's the interesting thing is that a lot of times we talk about the Eagles one-gapping and being so aggressive and getting upfield and trying to disrupt the ground game, and they should, and they do that sort of thing. But the problem is when they do that, then it's okay. If it doesn't work out for them, then the other team gets these big gains, and the Eagles do badly on a metric I have called good blocking yards per attempt. They give these huge gains, they get big breakaway gains. For the Giants running game, this stat just amazes me. Per Pro Football Reference, I don't think this is going to be a problem for the Eagles this week because per Pro Football Reference, the Giants have rushed the ball 212 times this year. They have 4 broken tackles in the running game. 4 with the whole season. Gallman has 51 carries, has not broken a tackle, and Alfred Morris has 1 broken tackle in 17 attempts. This is just not a team to where the Eagles can say, well, we have our front 7 come up. We don't need our safeties to come up here and disrupt the ground game because even if the Giants do get some good blocking for them, there's just not going to be breakaways, and I don't think they'll get good blocking on a consistent basis.
All right, Carson Wentz has been a problem, obviously. He's got the bye here. Are there areas that he can attack and get himself right? You know, the first time they played, he was terrible for about 3.5 quarters, and then he played really well in the last 6 minutes.
His big problem this year is accuracy per Pro Football Reference. They've got a metric called on-target pass percentage. He's at 71.1%. It ranks 29th in the league. It's worse than Sam Darnold. I mean, that's not a good place to be. Where they can attack, though, the Giants have a quarterback named Isaac Yiadom. He's their starting left corner. He's questionable to play, might even miss the contest. If he does, he's been terrible in coverage. I would think that Rager would line up against him, but who knows with the Eagles because now they might have Jeffrey back in this contest. They've got a lot of different options, but he would be somebody they definitely want to go after. They want to avoid James Bradbury, so it might just be where Fulgham doesn't get as many big plays as he would normally get, and Rager has to step up.
Yeah, that's Fulgham had that one big catch in the game last time they played, and it was when he was not matched up with Bradbury. So we'll see if they can figure out. And then Dallas Goedert back, what he means to this offense. Not to mention Miles Sanders is also going to play. He did not play the first time.
It's big for both of them. Sanders is the breakaway threat. Sanders gives them the near double-digit good blocking yards per attempt I mentioned before. Scott's been fantastic. He's got great vision, and I still think they should rotate him in there and not try and bell cow this thing, make it a lead alternate setup. The Giants, I had them rated as yellow-rated coverage against tight ends, which is down the middle, so I would think they'd do well there. We're one place that they've had some problems, so I just downgraded Logan Ryan, their free safety, from a red-rated free safety, which means you don't really want to throw vertical on his team, down to yellow-rated because he's had some struggles of late. So I think that would open some doors to, again, if Rager or if Fulgham's not the one you can get vertical, you can get some other people vertical because the Giants have had some problems.
KC Joyner looking at the matchups to watch in this game against them. Obviously, we mentioned Sanders back. Boston Scott's had some success against the Giants. How is running the football against this Giant team look?
I'd love to see the Eagles be able to do more than some of the basic running schemes they're using. I mean, they'll do a trap on occasion. They do some end around and some trick plays and things, but mostly it's just very basic zone lineups, and I'd like to see them be able to do more things. But when you've got that much offensive line rotation, it's difficult to do the more creative things on there. Again, what I liked about Scott is that he would, if he saw certain adjustments in the defense, he would know to cut back and say, okay, well, they've over-adjusted, like they've over-pursued to this side, and he has good vision to go cut back to the other side. A lot of backs can't do that, and he can. Sanders can do that as well, but I'd really, like I said, love to see them rotate the two backs in there and then get Sanders in there later in the game and start to lean on him after you've wore the defense down, because don't let Scott's talents go to waste, because he's got some skills that are hard to plan for a defense.
Okay, Slayton and Shepard and Ingram. We saw Ingram had a big drop in the game last time. How does the Eagles' secondary match up there?
I would think it looks like Slay, based on my coverage scheme that I've got on my charts, it looks like Slay's going to cover Shepard, or he would be most likely to cover Shepard. Slay, I still haven't rated as a red-rated corner. He's had some up-and-down games this year. He's not playing as well as I think a red-rated corner should, but I would think he could slow Shepard down quite well. Looking at Tate versus Roby Coleman, I mean, Tate's been battling the coaching staff and the administration. I don't think that he'll do much there, so that leaves them one area short there. I do get a little bit concerned about Ingram, but he hasn't shown. He had that one drop, and he just hasn't shown the ability to be really consistent. If I'm the Giants, it's something that I go after, but I don't see a mismatch for them anywhere in the secondary, because I got the Eagles' corners and safeties rated as either yellow or red across the board.
Yes, the Eagles' secondary has been better, especially with Slay. They seem like, remember, in years past, we would constantly be talking about the X plays and this propensity to give up the big play. They seemingly have fixed that element, especially having Slay back there helps.
Yes, it does. And we talked before the season that they went from they've been a safety-centric team where they put a lot of their salary cap dollars into the safety position and said, this is what we're going to make this a strong suit of our defense. And then they kind of went more towards, okay, we're going to go corners, which, to be honest, I think is a better approach in a lot of ways. And it has worked. I think that having a depth of quality corners has allowed them to get away with a little, probably a step down in play at the safety position. But again, the safety position hasn't been a problem for them, and it just gives them more consistency across the board, which is huge.
All right, we'll get your thoughts on this game. Let's first get one thought on every game in week number 10. Here we go as the Eagles get ready to take on the Giants, and then here is your week 10 slate. One thought, every game with KC Joyner. Houston goes to Cleveland. The Eagles will play Cleveland next week, and you would think that Cleveland's going to be coming off of a win against a Houston team that is really struggling, although they beat Jacksonville last week.
Houston scored 32 or more points 5 times this year. They're 5-0 in those games. They've had 3 games with 7 or fewer points. Everything about this contest points towards the 32-plus point kind of game for Cleveland, so I really like them to win this contest.
Washington on the road. Detroit is one of those teams that, is kind of up, they're kind of down. Washington is seemingly always kind of down.
They are, but last week they had a season high in passing yards and offensive yards, even with the third-string quarterback. So, I mean, they're playing quite well. And, I mean, the Lions, they give up 275 rushing yards to the Vikings. They just haven't been very good on against the ground game. I really call this a toss-up game, and I'm picking Detroit, but this game could go either way. Jacksonville
looks like they're up against it. Green Bay here. The Packers starting to play some better football and can keep piling up some wins with a game against Jacksonville.
Jacksonville has lost 7 straight because they've allowed 27 or more points in 7 straight games. They only have 7 takeaways all year. They're not going to get takeaways. They're going to give up big points. Luton looked good in his first start. He's a better quarterback than what they had, but I just think Green Bay, I think this is the most confident game of the week.
Tampa blown out last time. Now they got to go on the road. Carolina seemingly is in all their games, but there's just something that they're missing, obviously, with that 3-6 record. They're at home here, but do you see Tom Brady losing twice in a row?
I don't. So I've been getting so many things from fantasy fans, like, should we give up on Tom Brady? Should we give up on Tom Brady? I'm like, no, you don't give up on that type of a player after one bad game. And I just, let's not overreact to last week's game. They looked terrible, but that's a lot of it had to do with New Orleans. Plus the Panthers, they've been missing Christian McCaffrey. Davis had already been running out of gas before McCaffrey is out, so I'm taking Tampa on this one.
All right, Denver going to Vegas. Vegas is in the heart of the playoff mix in that AFC race. If Denver can win this, they would be interesting.
They've won 3 of the last 5. The Raiders won 3 of the last 4. This is a matchup of teams on the rise, and the Raiders are getting a lot of ground games, 140 rushing yards in 3 of those wins, including 369 rushing yards in the past couple weeks. I like that ability to run the ball a lot more than I like the Broncos' offense, even though the Broncos' offense is doing better, so I'll take Vegas.
One thought, every game, we're going to Miami, where the Dolphins are in the playoff mix. They look like a different team this year, obviously, defense, but the Chargers traveling all the way across the country. They've been close. It's just the week they finally get over the hump.
they're just not good at those shootout games. We talk all the time about how shootout games are 50-50 propositions, even for the best offenses. They're 1-4 in those games this year. Miami has only been in 2 shootout games, so they're good at not getting into those contests. They also have 0 turnovers in 4 of their last 6 games, and they're getting a lot of turnovers on defense. So you add that to the long road trip, I'll take the Dolphins.
All right, up next we go to Arizona. This one should be fun. It's the Cards taking on the Bills. Buffalo's got to travel to Arizona. Arizona coming off that loss. Bills coming off a big win.
It should be a fun game. Arizona's got 400 or more offensive yards in 4 straight games and 6 times this year. Normally that's a great achievement for them. It's just a day at the office. Now, Buffalo's been more productive, but teams have figured out how to slow that Bills offense. Seattle just had a horrible game plan. That's why they didn't do it. But I think the Cardinals will have the better game plan, and I think that the Cardinals' offense is just a step above and from a consistency basis Buffalo. So I'll take Cardinals.
All right, Seattle coming off of a bad loss. They gave up 44. They got to play the Rams now. So is this the start of a slide for the Seahawks?
I think that it is, because now they've lost. They were getting into shootout contests. They've won, I think, 5 straight. Now they've lost 2 of the last 3 because they're getting a lot of turnovers. And the Rams, they've got a very good defense. They're second in the league in points allowed per game, and their offense has racked up 400 or more offensive yards in 5 games. You don't think of them as being a high-powered offense anymore, at least not what they were, but they're pretty darn close. Because they can play on both sides of the ball better than Seattle, and plus it's at L.A., I'll take the Rams.
All right, we go to New Orleans, where the Saints are the 1 seed in the NFC. San Francisco, all sorts of injury problems. So can they go to New Orleans and knock off the Saints, who have won 5 straight?
It's tough for San Francisco because, they got a lot of talent. But remember, 2 of their wins are against the New York teams. That's how bad they've been. They've lost 4 of their last 6, and even the wins they had weren't exactly quality wins. Saints are playing nearly perfect, and they're getting production out of everybody on their roster. When you look at how they distribute their passes and running plays, they're finding ways to get everybody involved. That depth is just going to be too much for San Francisco to handle.
All right, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh obviously still perfect. It feels like one of these weeks they might get knocked off, but is it by the Bengals?
The thing about we talk about this frequently with the Tomlin team is they play teams that are not as talented. I think they've recognized that Cincinnati is a pretty close talent-wise, and it's an AFC North game. That's something that Tomlin's been talking about since early in the week. I'll pick Pittsburgh in this. I think it's going to be close because Cincinnati's got a big play offense, and the Steelers have given up 821 yards to opposing offenses the past 2 weeks. But as long as Ben plays, and it looks like he will pass COVID and his knees are okay, as long as he plays the win. If Ben is out, Cincinnati wins. But if Roethlisberger plays, I'll take Steelers.
All right, Baltimore goes to New England. This would usually be a marquee Sunday night game. Not so much with this New England bunch. They are a 7.5-point underdog at home against this Baltimore team.
Baltimore's only thrown for 200 or more net passing yards in only 2 games this year, yet they're so good on the ground. And New England has allowed 120 more rushing yards in 5 of the last 6 games. They've given up 84 points in the past 3 games. They're not a good defense. As much as Cam Newton's getting grief for not playing well, or the offense not playing well, their defense has taken a huge step back. I think Baltimore runs all over them.
All right, and then, of course, the Monday night game we will talk about when Casey's back on Monday. You can hear that game right here on 97.3 ESPN. That is Minnesota and Chicago. Let's go back to Philly and the Giants and get your thought on that game. Who wins and why?
The Eagles have had all these problems on offense and things, and they've given away they've had all kinds of turnovers and such. But they've scored 22 or more points in 6 straight games. And the Giants, I don't think they could test that secondary very well. They might be able to run the ball a little bit better, but as I said, they don't have any breakaway ability. They don't have any guys who can break tackles. I think the problem for them, though, the biggest problem is Jones turns the ball over as much as Wentz. Because they have the edge there in turnovers, I would necessarily pick the Giants. But because I think the Eagles will at least be even and maybe even better in that category, I'll take the Eagles.
All right, Eagles on the road. KC Joyner likes the Birds to win this game. Of course, you can hear it. 1 o'clock Sunday here on 97.3 ESPN. Merrill Reese, Mike Quick, they have the call. Keep it locked for all the coverage right here on 97.3 ESPN. And KC Joyner's back on Monday to recap one thought on all of these Week 10 games. And he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Casey, enjoy.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, he's back, of course, on the Monday show, as we said.